that little kid crazy. And that little kid did the Martin Lawrence, took the clothes off and ran out into the street and all of this, which they say artists do.
What?
When they go through that one. And yeah, man, that's how artists go crazy.
Told us who he is. I'm going to introduce him again. It's the man Jerome Childish. Last time you probably seen him was when he was a childhood superstar hanging with some of the biggest stars in the game. You know, Puff Daddy, 112, Mace, all of those greats from Bad Boys. He was signed to Bad Boy Records as a teenager. Well, younger than a teenager.
They used to have these guys, they used to call it the boiled egg test. They could take a boiled egg, a raw boiled egg, and have those guys put their pants down and bend over and they stick it. The eggs break. They say they're not ready yet. They ain't put it.
First, said, did Diddy stay in touch with you as a mentor afterwards, or even now?
No. Like you said, they tread lightly when you're there as a child.
Right.
No, my dad.
You know that feeling when an old secret finally comes to light, and it's so dark and twisted that you're not even sure you want to know more? Well, brace yourself, because today, we're peeling back the layers of a story that's been hidden for years, one that involves some of the biggest names in the music industry, and a young star whose life took a haunting turn. So, buckle up, because things are about to get real disturbing. Wait a minute. Do y'all remember Lil Jerome? The 11-year-old kid who was making waves in the music industry before he disappeared, almost without a trace? Yeah, the same Lil Jerome who was signed by Diddy himself, who seemed to have the world at his feet before he vanished. Well, recently, Jerome resurfaced with a story that's left everyone shook. And believe me when I say, this is no fairy tale. Jerome's story goes back to the glitz and glamour of the 90s, a time when Diddy, or Puff Daddy as he was known back then, was riding high as a music mogul with his Bad Boy Records label. It was the label to be on, producing legends like Notorious B.I.G. But for Lil Jerome, the youngest in Diddy's circle, life was anything but glamorous. Behind closed doors, he was enduring a nightmare. And recently, as the scandal surrounding Diddy has spiraled, Jerome came out of hiding with his own terrifying tale. Now let's rewind a little. When Lil Jerome was signed to Bad Boy Records, he was barely 11. You might be thinking, wow, that must have been amazing. A kid making music, hanging out with A-listers, and getting a chance to live the dream? But what actually happened? It's a nightmare most of us couldn't even imagine. As soon as he joined Diddy's circle, things took a dark turn. Jerome described things that make your skin crawl. Things that no kid should ever have to go through. He claims that he was not only forced to endure gruesome experiences, but he also started having panic attacks, breakdowns, and even stopped making music entirely. Yep, this kid who was being groomed as the next big thing was suddenly a ghost in the industry. And you might be wondering, what exactly happened? Well, it's all finally coming out. Lil Jerome has shared how Diddy would manipulate, control, and use fear tactics to keep him in line, even forcing him into situations that left lasting trauma. And just as disturbing, there's more than one victim coming forward with similar stories. Recently, word spread that Jerome might be part of a lawsuit that represents over 120 victims, dating from 1991 all the way to 2024. These victims, many of whom were underage at the time, claim to have been abused and traumatized, with Diddy allegedly being at the center of it all. Jerome, who was just a kid when all of this happened, fits the timeline perfectly. Now imagine a young boy stepping into the studio, all starry-eyed, hoping to make it big, only to realize that he was walking into a nightmare. But wait, there's more. Rumor has it that Diddy would lure these young boys in with promises of fame and fortune, sometimes even convincing their parents to keep quiet. With Lil Jerome, it's alleged that Diddy used his charm to convince Jerome's parents to trust him with their son's career. And in exchange, he got silence. For years, Lil Jerome stayed silent, and people started to forget. That's the saddest part. The industry has a way of sweeping these stories under the rug. But Jerome's silence was finally broken when Mark Curry, another artist who worked with Diddy, shared a shocking account. Curry claims that he once saw Jerome have a breakdown so severe that he ran out into the street, almost like he'd lost touch with reality. No clothes, no shoes, just pure terror on his face. Now, why would a kid who supposedly has everything be acting like that? According to Curry, the things Jerome was made to experience in the studio at the hands of Diddy and others, were enough to break anyone. Jerome was reportedly even pushed to sing lyrics he was too young to understand, being coached on topics far beyond his age, and when he couldn't cope anymore, Diddy reportedly just tossed him aside, saying he wasn't ready yet. Fast forward to now. Jerome is speaking up, and he's not alone. One lawyer, Tony Busby, is representing over 120 victims with stories that sound eerily similar. Some of these victims were as young as 9 when they first encountered Diddy. Imagine being a child, excited to chase your dreams, only to have them twisted into a nightmare you can never escape. And get this, Busby's case reveals even more horrific details. One young victim, also a child star, claims Diddy and other men at the studio not only abused him, but blackmailed his family into silence by promising him a record deal. The boy's parents were allegedly convinced that staying quiet would help their son's career, not knowing the lasting trauma they were allowing into his life. Now, it's worth mentioning that Jerome's story isn't unique. Other artists have spoken out against Diddy, hinting at similar experiences. But Jerome's case stands out because of how young he was. He wasn't an adult who signed up for fame. He was a child who trusted the wrong people, a kid thrown into an adult world where he was forced to grow up way too soon. At this point, you've got to wonder, how could anyone let this happen? People are now asking tough questions. Shouldn't these parents be held accountable too? How could they leave their children with complete strangers in the name of fame? And if these rumors are true, why was Diddy allowed to operate unchecked for so long? Social media is blowing up with comments from people who are shocked, angry, and heartbroken. One user wrote, "At this point, parents need to be held accountable for the things that happen to their kids. This is beginning to be sickening." And another added, "The more this industry gets exposed, the more it becomes clear that parents and adults in power have failed these kids. But now, the big question is, will justice finally be served?" With lawsuits piling up and more victims finding the courage to speak out, it's starting to look like Diddy's reign might be over. But if there's one thing we know about the music industry, it's that justice is a long uphill battle. As we wait for more details to emerge, you've got to wonder, what else is hiding in the shadows of the music world? Jerome's story is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. And as more victims come forward, we're left wondering, how deep does this go? What else has been hidden from us? Now we can only hope that Jerome and all the others who've suffered get the justice they deserve. But one thing is for sure. The truth is coming out, piece by piece. And it's more horrifying than anyone ever imagined. So what do you think? Is the music industry finally facing a reckoning? Or is this just the tip of the iceberg? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and stay tuned, because you know there's always more tea to spill. And if you're still curious about what else has been hidden in plain sight, click on this video right here. Trust me, you don't want